Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor at Madison365 with your daily update for Thursday, March 25th. Is that right? Is it the 25th? I think it is. It might be the 24th. It's the 25th today. It's the 25th today. We know that because it's the year anniversary of Governor Evers' safer at home order. And for a while there, I thought today was the first anniversary of this daily update. And I was wrong. That was yesterday. It was the day that the first I came on and I looked at it and it was ridiculous, and it was just like me talking to the laptop with we had this banner, we had this like step and repeat with our logo on it that we took to events and stuff, and I just literally hung that up in the wall of my basement and just started talking about the news because there was so much. And now a year later I got logos and we're fancy, and I have all of you chiming in, so I appreciate your sticking with us for this whole year. It's been amazing. So let's talk about COVID numbers, because even a year later, we have a lot more COVID cases today than we did that day a year ago. I think we had like 4 new cases that day or something. Today we have over 500. Now, yesterday, we'll go through the COVID numbers, take a short break, and then after the break, Connor Tobin is going to join us. He's the captain of Forward Madison. He just re-signed with the club to play at center back, as he's played for the past 2 years. And he's also taken on a new job that was just announced today. He's actually the community engagement manager at Forward Madison, and he's got a lot to say about community, about connecting with our organizations in the community. It's a really good conversation that you will enjoy. So thank you, Heidi. So here's what we have today for COVID. Yesterday, the numbers were not good, right? Today, they're slightly better, still, but not better enough for my taste. We have over 5,000 tests again, which I'm not sure what's going on with the testing and why it's back up. We've been seeing 2,000, 3,000 tests. Yesterday, we had 6,300. Today, we have over 5,000. Just like 5,014, but still more than 5,000. So that's the good news. That's good news. 527 new cases, so 10.5% positive, give or take. So again, a year ago at this time, when things were all shutting down and everybody was very afraid, and schools had been closed already for a week and a half. We were, about to issue a stay-at-home order, and we had, single digits of new cases every day. And now we have 527, and that feels okay. This is how things change in a year. Now our daily average of new cases, and this is partly due to more testing, but we're getting 458 new cases a day. That's up. That was below. That was like 380 last week. So that's up significantly. Again, the last 2 days have been much more testing. So when you test more, you find more cases. That's just how it works. So that is less of a concern. 2 numbers I'll give you that are slightly higher concern. 2.5 is still the 7-day positive test rate. Again, we've been working for months to get that below 3.0. And we did it. We got it below 3.0. We got it all the way down to 2.0. And since then, in the past week and a half or so, it's been inching back up, which I don't like. Now, again, it's still below 3, so that's fine. But it's 2.5, and it has been for the past 2 days. It was 2.5 yesterday. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. If that inches up any further, I will be more concerned. The other number that I don't love today is 6,600, which is the number of active cases. Going way back to June 1st of last year, when the state first started reporting active cases, it was 6,600. That's what it was at the start of June last year. And every day through the month of June, it went down until it got to 4,400. And then it started to go back up. And it got as high as 79,000 at one point. So 6,600 is higher than it was yesterday. It has gotten down to as low as about 6,200 over the past couple of weeks. And it is now back up to 6,600, which I also don't love. Now, let's talk about some good news. Let's talk about some vaccinations. We are averaging about 45,000 doses a day. Some of those are second doses. Like, for example, today we are seeing above average, well above average, 74,000 doses administered today. Not nearly as many are as administered on the weekends. So if you look at the chart, it's literally like this: weekday, weekend, weekday, weekend. So even though we're doing 74,000 today, the average will still be about 45, a little more than 45,000. What that means is of those 73,000, 24,000 were the second dose or were the final dose. 52,000 were first doses. Now, there's a small number that is both the first and the final dose, because that Johnson & Johnson vaccine only requires one dose. However, those are a very small percentage of Wisconsin vaccinations. Less than 2% of the vaccines administered so far have been Johnson & Johnson. In fact, only 2,000 in the past 24 hours of those 74,000 that have been administered in the past day. Only 2,000 were Johnson & Johnson. The rest were either Moderna, which is 45%, and the rest were Pfizer at 52%. So the bottom line is we've got 917,000 people fully vaccinated. That's 15.8% of the population. That's good. That's moving forward rapidly. The governor has said there will be enough vaccine supply so that by the end of July, we will have 80% of the population vaccinated. Now, having enough supply is very different than having it actually administered. So there's going to have to be a lot of work done getting it into neighborhoods, into communities, into vulnerable communities where people have access barriers and language barriers and information barriers and all that stuff. So the state is doing that work. The state is putting some money into that. But as long as if we can keep, 45,000 a day and get that even faster, push that even farther, it does seem reasonable to get to 80% by July. Now, does that mean it's over? Not necessarily. It takes 2 to 4 weeks to really have that immunity done. And but what we should see is as we get more people vaccinated, our spread numbers should take a turn downward. Because it's just, it can spread. If you vaccinated, you can get it. If you're vaccinated, you can spread it. But first of all, if you're vaccinated and you get it, you don't get as sick. So it's not that big a problem. If you are vaccinated and you get COVID, it's not that big a problem for you. But if you spread it to an unvaccinated person, that could be a problem for them. But in both cases, it's just far less likely. It's less likely that you'll get it. It's less likely that you'll spread it. And if you do get it, you're not going to be as sick. Okay. So that's why the vaccine continues to be really, really important. That's pretty much all the news on COVID, coronavirus spread. It's like I said, it's not as bad as yesterday, and the vaccine news continues to be pretty good. We have not seen, usually Thursday, the last several Thursdays and Fridays, we've gotten updates on variants. We haven't seen that update yet today, so we will get that to you. I'm hoping tomorrow at this time I'll have that for you. Okay, that's what I have for coronavirus. We're going to take a short break. Yes, that's a great question, Rachel. Yes, they are. I don't dig into that deep on this show as often, but yes, they are breaking down the positive tests by age. For the biggest increases in the from January into February for sure, and that has continued a little bit, is that sort of college age crowd, which is you don't want to say this is good news, but like that's the least vulnerable population really. And it seems as if the campuses have been able to contain it to within that population, unlike what happened in the fall, where a lot of college people got sick and then spread it off campus. So that's good. So yeah, that's a good question, Rachel. Okay, we'll take a short break. We'll be back with Connor Tobin right after this.
And joining the program today, the captain himself, Connor Tobin. How you doing, Connor?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Good, you bet. So we heard yesterday that you re-signed with Forward Madison as the captain, as a center back, and you've also taken on a new role as a community engagement manager, right?
Correct.
So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what goes into that decision. At this point in your career, you've been playing professional soccer for how long? 12 years, 13 years, something like that? A long time.
I'm too old to remember.
Well, and you're 34, and you're what goes into that decision? Are you thinking about, do I resign here? Do I look elsewhere? Do I hang up the cleats? I mean, one of your teammates decided to retire this year, JC Banks. So what goes into that? What did that thought process like over the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit where you got to evaluate just the playing side of it, and where am I at physically? Where am I at as far as your motivation around the game and what you want to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to take that piece kind of by itself, and then, you're also balancing that your career is finite, and you're not sure when you're going to have to transition, and how do you manage that with your other interests? And one of the things that I've been really focused on the last couple of years, and it's a passion of mine, is building community. And and talking about the club, of whether it made sense to play another year here or what that would look like, I think we started to get into, hey, what this other interest that I have, and is there a path forward where we can start to kind of combine some of those? So it was kind of a conversation this offseason that continued to evolve until we kind of settled in kind of both parts of it. And, I think from my perspective, it's two things that kind of seem to fit together that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it seems like you have a kind of a rare opportunity to kind of transition and kind of know what your next step is, and kind of start to already lay the foundation of that transition. Is that accurate?
I don't even know if it's the next step of what it would exactly be, but
yeah,
it's certainly a great opportunity to explore passion. And to do it in a context that's really fun, and then also still have the piece about the playing that I really enjoy. Beyond the physical aspect of it, I'm really excited about the club and my role within the club to really help guide and mentor some of these younger players to try to get to the next level. So there's a lot of things that just seem to fit. Made sense.
Yeah, let's talk about that on the field a little bit, and then we'll get into more of the community engagement role. But looking at the roster that the club has put together this year, what excites you heading into the season?
Everything. No, I mean, this roster is super exciting from my perspective, and kind of, again, from my role. I think it's exciting just in general as far as where the team's going, but I think for me, we're a little bit younger, but we have a group of guys, first and foremost, even though we've gotten a little bit younger, I think we have really good people. Almost to a T, every single person that we've brought on board, I'm excited about it. I've only heard, if I don't know the person, I've talked to people that play them. And you get old, and you have this whole network, so you kind of ask that. Like, I haven't heard a bad review about someone as a person. Take away the playing side, like, good people. And that's really exciting, I think, because that's such a foundation of creating an environment at this level. It's about creating an environment that allows for individual growth, because a lot of these younger players have big ambitions, and they should be fighting to get to those things, and trying to help them is really exciting. But can we do that in a context that mixes that with kind of collective success? And I'm really, really excited about this group of players.
You guys have had sort of mixed results in the last couple of years, and do you think, and everybody talks about that goal of wanting to get to that, get that trophy at the end of the year, do you think this group has what it takes?
Yeah, I mean, it's early doors, and every team starts off, with that ambition and that hunger. But absolutely, I think it starts with, you need a group of guys that buy in to not only trying to improve themselves every day, but feeling a responsibility to do that, because knowing if you push yourself to improve every day, I'm actually making the person next to me better. And if they're doing that back to me, there's kind of this reciprocal relationship about it.
Yeah.
And to have that, 1 through 25 on a roster is hard to do. And to do it, you need to have good people first. And I can't say enough about the work that Carl's come in and done. Coach Neal's done, Coach Jim's done. I think not only have they tried to go find good footballers, but I think they spent a lot of time trying to find good people as well.
Yeah, right. Now let's talk about Carl a little bit. The new head coach, new manager, Carl Craig, coming from Minnesota, where you actually played with him in your younger days, right?
I did.
So what can you tell us about Carl and what he brings to Fort Madison?
So when I played for Carl was in a little bit different of a role. He was kind of the first assistant for Manny Lagos. But I think Carl is someone that absolutely knows football inside and out.
Yeah.
But one of the things that sets Carl apart is Carl's ability to kind of tap into each guy mentally and to kind of get to know them on that level. And then Carl has a really unique perspective in how he thinks about things, and it's really player first in this. I know for myself personally, with where I was at career-wise when I played in Minnesota and some things that I was going through, I would not be sitting here having this conversation for you today if I didn't have Carl as an assistant coach at that time. He's been that impactful of what's happened in my career. So I'm really excited for him to be back in the professional game. I know it was something that he talked about, of being really excited about. He felt like, he kind of had the 1 year as the head coach in Minnesota, but he wanted to have that opportunity again. And he felt like there's a lot of learnings that he could apply. So I'm really excited for him to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm also really excited just for the young group of guys to benefit from the perspective and style that Carl brings.
Now let's talk about your community engagement role, because that's something Carl talks a lot about. He talks about obviously the football, but he says a lot about community engagement and creating a community for soccer, and that sounds like it's going to be one of your kind of part of your job now officially. So can you tell us what's your job description in that role, and what kind of duties, what kind of things you're going to be doing day to day?
So I think kind of maybe where the link is with Carl is we back up and we ask our question, and you ask enough times why, you get to the bottom of all of this, right? So at the end of the day, why do we even have a club here in Madison? Why are we playing soccer? Why are people coming? I really truly believe the bottom of that is the club, the team in general. It's here to make this community better. It's here to enhance the lives of people in this community. And if that's really the why of all of this, we need to take an active role in how we engage and how we enhance the greater society around us. So as far as this role, I think Ford has done a pretty good job in certain aspects the first couple of years. But we've been, all these different things. We've had all this energy, and it hasn't always been targeted or strategic. So I think this year what we want to do is start to codify some of the stuff that we've done, make it so it's sustainable and we can grow it. And one of the big things that I would like to bring to this is there is so much positive work done by so many people in this community, whether it's businesses, nonprofits, individuals. A lot of it we just don't hear about. And because of what's happened with the club over the last couple of years and kind of the reach of it, I really think there's a big opportunity for the club to take an active role in seeking out some of these people or entities doing all the good work already, go to them and say, hey, how can we support you? So we allow people to, they've already run and they have a mission, they're doing all this great stuff. How do we help you? You don't need to change your mission. How can the club come alongside you and enhance this? How do we make this even more impactful for this community? And one of the things I would really be focused on in this role is trying to bring a little bit of that to this.
And then when you look down, I mean, not this past year, obviously, with you guys playing in Wauwatosa and nobody allowed to cheer too loudly or whatever.
Right.
Looking back to 2019 and down in the flock end of the stadium and the real, like, genuine, not token, but genuine diversity among the supporters, I think it seems to me to have been a strength of this club. And that's obviously with 365, that's what we kind of focus on. But, and I asked this question because I genuinely don't know, but you've got the supporters group, and then you've got the Featherstorm Flamingos, which is sort of the, black focused, and you've got the Labaros, the Latino celebrating Latinos. And now you got the Accessamingos, which is the people who have mobility challenges, who and the Mingo lady. They have all these different specific supporters group that also work together, but really celebrate a lot of diversity among the supporters. Does that exist in other communities and with other clubs? Do you see that?
I think certainly there's a lot of examples globally.
Yeah,
there's been organizations and football clubs that have kind of had different groups represented.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the things I would like to see the club continue to push is not only be open to allowing all these different groups to speak into the club, but how do we make sure that it's not a token thing. It's not just that we have this supporters group, this is great, but how do we actually make sure that what this club is becoming is a reflection of all these different groups, that all of them get some sort of ownership in where this club is going.
Mm-hmm. I think that the really stark example of that, if I can, is when the Accessamingos were announced as the new sort of sub-supporters group, specifically for people with mobility challenges and disabilities. But that same day that was announced, the club announced a bunch of accessibility projects in the stadium. It's right hand in hand. So, we're talk a little bit about that and about the sort of specific concrete things that the club is doing to kind of engage and make the game itself open and accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to our ownership group. I think they have bought into the fact that this is not just words. If we're building something that's supposed to be reflective of this community and supposed to enhance this community, that means when certain obstacles or groups that face obstacles bring things to the club and say, hey, these are things that we'd like your support in, we've got to take an active role, which means it's not good enough to just put out a statement. We've got to back that up with action. And it's one of the pillars of what we're trying to build is there's always something more that we can do. Right? We cannot just sit here and say, oh, we've done this, we've checked the box, let's move on. It's good enough. And, I think that's one of the things that makes Madison special, in my opinion. Since I've gotten here, I've really felt an energy from a lot of people in the community. There's always a sense of there's something more that we can achieve, or we can improve, or we could do this better. And we've got to be reflective of that as a club. And just exactly what you're saying, when people speak into the club, okay, how can we do this better? How can we make this more accessible? How can we make this, a better experience for more people? How can we be more impactful? We've always got to be saying, okay, this is great, and acknowledge the good work that we've done, but there should also be a conversation of how can we continue to push the envelope.
Well, listen, Connor, I really appreciate you giving us some time today, and it sounds like you sound like you have a really clear idea of how the club it needs to be integrated with the community and connect with the community, but also you guys got some work to do on the field. So I wish you the best of luck, and we'll be watching.
Yeah, if I could, and I don't know if it's fully whatever. One of the things as we're coming in, I feel like I see some of the things of value-wise where the club should be going. Mm-hmm. But there is absolutely the people in this community need to be driving what this is. This is a reflection of them. That's what we've got to make sure is ingrained. And I think one of the big things about my role is I need to be listening. The club needs to be listening to that. So to the extent that people listen to this or watch it and they get excited about this idea, or they're working on something that they're really passionate about, reach out to me. My email is ctobin@forwardmadisonfc.com. loop me in. I'd love to have conversations. And again, I see this as, if there's ways the club can be better, if there's things you want us to see us doing, contact me. I want to listen. I want to learn. I want to hear about all the great things that are going on and explore ways where the club can be supportive of those things.
All right. You heard it. C. Tobin at forwardmadisonfc.com.
Yep.
Shoot him an email, everybody. All right, Connor. Thanks a lot. Have a great afternoon.
Appreciate it, Rob.
And we appreciate Connor's giving us a few minutes this afternoon. C. Tobin at forwardmadisonfc.com. It's not every day that a professional footballer just hands out his email address for you. So get engaged. I think they're serious about engaging with community stuff. So do reach out. Just a couple other news items I want to share with you today before we sign off. I lost my other screen here in the midst of that interview. Here we are. The Foundation for Black Women's Wellness, which we report on pretty regularly here because they're pretty active. They just got a $1 million donation over the course of 10 years. But that's a substantial commitment, obviously, $100,000 a year for 10 years, from the Mary Burke Foundation for Women and Girls. As you can see here is Mary Burke, who of Trek Bicycle, formerly, and now Building Brave, a former candidate for governor, made that commitment to the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness over the next 10 years, which is a very big deal for that organization. Also today, we reported on the Overture Center Forums is going to be hosting. This is something that they've been doing since basically Overture Center for the Arts, this massive performing arts center downtown Madison. If you're not from Madison, you may not know where it is, but it's a huge performing arts center with 7 theaters inside it, and it's been completely dark for a year now, which is pretty devastating. So they've been having these online forum conversations on a range of topics, and the one they're hosting on Monday night, this to the 29th, is on vaccine in the Black community. So they're having, as you can see, Dr. Gloria Liza Billings is moderating it. Aaron Perry, the Rebalanced Life Wellness Foundation, and Dr. Jasmine Zapata, some of the physicians and public health folks, to answer questions and address some of the issues with getting the vaccine to Black communities here in Wisconsin. And finally, today, the University of Wisconsin has announced the hire of Gary Brown to be the new running backs coach. He was most recently the running backs coach at the Dallas Cowboys. So that's a pretty big hire. As you know, Wisconsin is kind of known as running back university. This is where running backs come to become record breakers and NFL running backs. So the running backs coach is a pretty important role with the Badgers. So welcome to Gary Brown. All right, that's the news for you today. I appreciate your sticking around. I appreciate Connor Tobin once again for joining us. I appreciate Forward Madison helping us to facilitate that interview. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. We'll be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Take care.
This is 365 Media.